My next guest is a professional bounty hunter with over 6,000 captures in his 27-year career. He also stars in the new A&E series Dog the Bounty Hunter. Please welcome Duane Dog Chapman.
The sun beat down on a young Duane Chapman as he walked away from his childhood home for the last time. At just 16, he was leaving behind a world of pain and contradiction. His father's fists had taught him strength, but also fear. As a Navy welder turned bail bondsman, Flash Chapman ruled with an iron grip, wielding a paddle that left bruises as lasting as the memories. Meanwhile, his Sunday school teacher mother whispered prayers and scripture, creating a storm of conflicting values. In young Duane's heart, "I thought it was normal," Dog would later recall about the abuse, his voice carrying the weight of realization that came decades too late. The rebellious teenager found a new family in the leather-clad arms of the Devil's Disciples motorcycle gang. It was here, during a heated defense of his faith, a faith he couldn't fully abandon despite his rebellion, that he earned the nickname that would define his life. Dog, they called him, because it's God spelled backward. The irony wasn't lost on him, a man caught between heaven and hell, between his mother's teachings and his father's violence. As he revved his motorcycle engine, the nickname stuck to him like the road dust on his boots, a paradox that would follow him through a life of contradictions, where a man hunted by demons would one day become the hunter himself. The year was 1976, and Duane Dog Chapman's life was about to shatter. The Texas air hung heavy with tension as he sat in a car, waiting for what should have been a routine drug deal. Instead, gunshots cracked through the night. His friend had killed a dealer named Oliver during an argument. Though Dog never pulled the trigger, Texas law showed no mercy. "I was in the wrong place, with the wrong people, at the wrong time," he would later lament, the weight of those fateful moments permanently etched into his weathered face. The judge's gavel fell hard, 5 years for murder. But behind the cold prison walls, something unexpected happened. When an inmate attempted escape and guards prepared to use lethal force, Dog stepped between them, his voice cutting through the chaos. "You don't have to do this," he shouted, saving a life and changing his own forever. A guard watched this act of bravery with calculating eyes. "You know," he told Chapman later, "with your instincts, you'd make one hell of a bounty hunter." Those words planted a seed in the inmate's mind. After serving just 18 months, Dog emerged from prison a changed man, facing a mountain of child support debt and a desperate need for cash. The guard's suggestion echoed in his mind as he sought a path forward. Little did he know that this moment, this choice made out of necessity, would transform a convicted felon into one of America's most recognized faces, proving that sometimes rock bottom is just the foundation for something extraordinary. The boy, newly released Chapman, stood at a crossroads, his prison number still fresh in his mind, and a mountain of child support debt looming over him. "I needed money, and I needed it fast," Dog would later explain, his voice gravelly from years of chasing both criminals and his own redemption. That's when he remembered the prison guard's words about becoming a bounty hunter. With nothing to lose and everything to prove, Dog threw himself into this dangerous new profession. His first captures were messy, fueled more by desperation than skill. But something clicked inside him, the thrill of the chase, the satisfaction of bringing fugitives to justice. Each successful capture washed away a bit of his own criminal past. "I was the least likely person to enforce the law," he'd often say with a knowing smile, "but maybe that's why I was perfect for it." Dog quickly developed a reputation for tracking down those who disappeared into the shadows of society. His methods were unconventional, his appearance intimidating. The wild mullet, the leather vest, the mirrored sunglasses hiding eyes that had seen both sides of the law. He didn't just catch criminals. He connected with them, often offering advice and second chances. "I've been where you are," he'd tell them during captures, "and I found my way out." The bounty hunter had found his calling, turning his troubled past into a roadmap for navigating the criminal underworld. With each fugitive caught, Dog wasn't just bringing them to justice. He was redeeming himself one capture at a time. In the chaotic world of bail bonds and fugitive hunting, Dog Chapman's heart had taken as many hits as his body. After failed marriages and broken promises, he wasn't looking for love until Beth Smith walked into his office in 1988. She was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen, Dog would later recall, his voice softening at the memory. Beth had been arrested for carrying an unlicensed weapon and unpaid traffic tickets. Hardly the beginning of a fairy tale. Yet fate had other plans. Despite their electric connection, their path to happiness was anything but straight. Sotor. Ongoing marriages and Beth's fiery independence kept them circling each other for years, neither willing to surrender to what seemed inevitable. "I knew he was the one," Beth would say years later, her confidence unwavering. "I just had to wait for him to figure it out." By 1997, after years of separation and reunion, they finally moved in together, blending their families and their bail bonds business. With Beth by his side, Dog's career reached new heights. She wasn't just his partner in life, but in the hunt as well, chasing down fugitives in high heels with a determination that matched his own. Their love story played out on the dangerous streets they patrolled and in the quiet moments between captures. "She's the one person who never gave up on me," Dog would say, his voice cracking with emotion. "Even when I gave up on myself." Their relationship would become the emotional backbone of their eventual reality TV fame, proving that sometimes the greatest bounty is finding someone who sees past your mugshot to the person you could become. The year was 2003, and Dog Chapman was about to step into the spotlight in a way he never imagined. Andrew Luster, the heir to the Max Factor Cosmetics fortune, had fled the country after being convicted of drugging and sexually assaulting multiple women. When authorities couldn't locate him, Dog saw an opportunity that would change everything. "This wasn't just about the money anymore," he'd later explain, his eyes intense beneath his signature sunglasses. "This was about bringing a predator to justice." With Beth and his crew by his side, Dog tracked Luster to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. The capture was dramatic. Dog tackling Luster on a busy street, the fugitive's face registering shock as he realized his freedom had come to an end. What Dog didn't realize was that bounty hunting is illegal in Mexico. As he attempted to bring Luster back to the US, Mexican authorities arrested Dog and his team at the border. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The bounty hunter behind bars, fighting for his own freedom. But something unexpected happened. America fell in love with the story. The media couldn't get enough of this larger-than-life character who'd risked everything to capture a notorious fugitive. Network executives saw gold in Dog's unique blend of toughness and compassion, his unusual appearance and compelling backstory. When A&E offered him his own reality show in 2004, Dog the Bounty Hunter was born. "I went from convict to TV star," Dog would say with a shake of his head. "Only in America." The cameras started rolling, capturing Dog's unorthodox methods and family dynamics, transforming a bounty hunter into a household name and proving that sometimes the most extraordinary stories come from the most unlikely places. When Dog the Bounty Hunter hit television screens in 2004, viewers weren't prepared for what they were about to witness. This wasn't just another reality show. It was a gritty, unfiltered look into a world few had seen before. "We're not acting," Dog would insist during interviews, his impressive mullet and leather vest becoming as recognizable as his catchphrases. "This is who we are, every day." What made the show extraordinary wasn't just the adrenaline-pumping captures or Dog's larger-than-life personality. It was the unexpected heart at its core. Cameras followed as Dog would tackle a fugitive one moment, then counsel them the next, often sharing his own story of redemption. "I've been where you are," he'd tell them, his voice dropping to a compassionate whisper. "This isn't the end for you." For 8 seasons, millions tuned in to watch the Chapman family's pre-hunt prayers, their dramatic takedowns, and Beth's remarkable ability to chase criminals in heels without missing a step. The show turned Dog into a cultural icon, his distinctive look parodied on everything from Saturday Night Live to South Park. But in 2007, the spotlight turned harsh when a recording surfaced of Dog using racial slurs in a private conversation with his son. A&E suspended the show, and Dog faced the biggest crisis of his career. "I made a terrible mistake," he admitted publicly, his remorse evident as he fought to save not just his show, but his reputation. The network eventually brought the show back, But the incident revealed the double-edged sword of fame. How quickly a life built in the public eye can crumble with a single mistake. Beth Chapman stood in the doctor's office in 2017, her usual confidence momentarily shaken as she heard the devastating news: throat cancer. For a woman whose powerful voice had been her trademark, whose sharp commands had helped capture countless fugitives, the diagnosis struck at the very heart of her identity. Cancer picked the wrong woman, she declared defiantly, her eyes flashing, with the same determination that had defined her life. The following months transformed the Chapman family's reality. From their home in Hawaii to a hospital in Los Angeles, Beth fought with everything she had. Surgery to remove a tumor the size of a plum provided a glimmer of hope, and by November, the family celebrated when Beth was declared cancer-free. Dog, normally the picture of strength, couldn't hide his relief. "My Beth is going to be okay," he told everyone who would listen, his voice catching with emotion. But their relief was heartbreakingly short-lived. Just a year later, Beth was rushed into emergency surgery after experiencing trouble breathing. The cancer had returned, this time spreading to her lungs. Despite the grim prognosis, Beth refused to surrender. She rejected chemotherapy, determined to spend her remaining time on her own terms. "I want to live out what time I have left as myself, not as a shell of myself," she explained, her voice growing weaker, but her spirit unbroken. The cameras rolled for their new show, Dogs Most Wanted, capturing Beth's final hunts and private moments of vulnerability. On June 26, 2019, with Dog by her side, Beth took her final breath. "She told me to let her go," Dog revealed later, tears streaming down his face. How do you let your soulmate go? For the bounty hunter who had faced down countless dangerous criminals, this was the one fight he couldn't win. The world saw Dog Chapman as an unbreakable force of nature, a man who had stared down danger and come out victorious time and again. But behind closed doors, in the quiet moments after Beth's passing, that tough exterior crumbled completely. "I couldn't stop crying," he confessed in an emotional interview with Dr. Oz, his voice barely a whisper. "There was a moment when I had a handful of pills in my hand." The revelation shocked fans. The idea that this pillar of strength had contemplated ending his own life. The grief was only compounded by mounting financial troubles. Beth's medical bills had been astronomical, and supporting their blended family of 12 children strained his resources beyond breaking point. "I'm going to lose the house," Dog admitted, the proud hunter now facing the humiliation of potential foreclosure. His chest pains and difficulty breathing led to another terrifying diagnosis: a pulmonary embolism, a potentially deadly blood clot in his lungs. Without Beth there to push him toward proper medical care, Dog had ignored the warning signs until Dr. Oz personally intervened. "Beth would be so angry with me," Dog admitted, shaking his head at his own stubbornness. "She always said I'd follow her to heaven because I wouldn't take care of myself." For a man who had made his living bringing others to justice, life had delivered its own harsh sentence. The public saw glimpses of his struggle through social media and interviews, his weight dropping dramatically, his eyes hollow with loss. Yet even in his darkest hour, Dog's survival instinct, the same one that had pulled him through prison and countless dangerous hunts, refused to let him surrender. "I have to keep going," he'd say, his voice stronger with each passing day. "I have to honor her by living." 7 months after Beth's passing, whispers began spreading through the Chapman family and their loyal fan base. Dog had been spotted with a woman named Moon Angel, a longtime family friend and Beth's former assistant. "She's helping me get through this," Dog explained. But his daughter Lissa wasn't convinced, taking to social media to call Angel a homewrecker and accusing her father of betrayal. The tension reached a bizarre climax when, during an appearance on Dr. Oz, Dog proposed to Angel on live television. Her shock was evident as she firmly declined, insisting they were just friends. "I was testing the waters," Dog would later admit, the proposal more about gauging reactions than genuine intent. But fate had other plans for the grieving widower. In March 2020, Dog met Francie Frayne, a rancher who had also lost her spouse to cancer. Their connection was immediate and profound, built on a shared understanding of devastating loss. "We cry together," Dog revealed, his voice softening. "We talk about Beth and her husband. We help each other heal." By May, a proposal followed, and in September 2021, they exchanged vows in an intimate ceremony. Not everyone celebrated the union. Critics accused Dog of moving on too quickly, suggesting he was dishonoring Beth's memory. "Beth would want me to be happy," Dog insisted, his voice firm with conviction. "She wouldn't want me to be alone." As he and Francie began sharing glimpses of their life together on social media, a new chapter was clearly beginning. For a man whose life had been defined by second chances, from his prison release to his television comeback, this was perhaps the most personal redemption of all. The bounty hunter who had spent decades tracking down fugitives had finally found something that had eluded him since Beth's passing: peace. Today, Dog Chapman stands at a crossroads, his signature mullet now more silver than blonde, his voice carrying the weight of a life lived in the extremes. Financial troubles forced him to sell the Colorado mansion he once shared with Beth, bringing in nearly $1.6 million to cover mounting tax debts. "I've been broke before," he shrugged, the resilience of a man who's known both fame and poverty evident in his weathered face. Material things come and go. His transition to what he calls Christian influencer has raised eyebrows and sparked controversy, particularly after public rants against transgender personalities that reminded critics of his past racial controversies. Yet Dog remains unapologetically himself, a complex figure who defies easy categorization. "I'm a Christian outlaw," he declares, embracing the contradiction. His book, 9 Lives and Counting, chronicles his journey from convicted felon to reality star to spiritual seeker, each chapter more unlikely than the last. The bounty hunting continues, though less frequently now, with each capture a reminder of the skills that made him famous. For fans who grew up watching him burst through doors yelling, "Dog the Bounty Hunter," his evolution is the latest surprising turn in a life that has never followed a predictable path. The loss of Beth remains an open wound, mentioned in nearly every interview, her absence still palpable years later. "She was the love of my life," he says, his voice catching. "But I'm still here for a reason." And perhaps that's the most compelling part of Dog's story, his stubborn refusal to stay down, no matter how many times life knocks him to the ground. From prison cells to television fame, from heartbreaking loss to new love, Duane Dog Chapman continues to reinvent himself, proving that sometimes the most extraordinary stories are the ones still being written.